Hello, my name is Mike. This is Bike. That's not what today's episode's about. It's actually about this engine and this car. Now you might ask, why do I always start off with, my name is Mike and this is a bike? Well, I don't know, just it rhymes. You know, maybe I should change it up a little. Type down there in the comments or your phone and just, let me know if I should continue to start all my videos off with my name is Mike and this is a bike. I could start off with my name is Dan and this is a van, or something else, or just nothing at all. Let me know what you think. Anyway, I've digressed already and I just barely even started the video. In this episode, we're going to get this engine ready to install on this car. Hopefully we're going to yank the old 6-cylinder out and we're going to change out the K-member. But before I do all that, I'm going to clean this K-member up that's going to go in the car. And since I have a chrome oil pan on my engine, I'm going to get that K-member chromed. I'm going to get it chrome plated. No, that's ridiculously expensive. No one's going to see it anyway. But what I am going to do is I'm going to get a coat of black paint or something on just to protect it. And if somebody does happen to gaze up underneath the car, well, at least it'll look presentable. It's not really that important. I have a couple of ball joint boots ordered for it. The ball joints themselves are nice and firm and stiff and no play, but the boots are kind of torn up, so we'll get those done. And another thing I want to do on this engine is, before I install it in the vehicle, I don't want to find out the hard way that it sat long enough for the valves to start sticking. In fact, that's what created all the problems with the Yard Art Cougar in the very beginning. The valves stuck on that car and it just snowballed into chaos. So I'm going to rotate the engine around with the valve covers off, just make sure all my valves are moving easily. Maybe put a little lubricant in on the valve stems to assist them so they don't stick. And who knows, I might even bother to paint the valve covers. No, I already primed them. Good enough. Anyway, we're going to try and make some progress here on the 1982 Granada station wagon project. So, stick around.
Somewhere in a dusty, dirty back alley in western Arizona, not far from historic Route 66, is an old fart trying to cram a square peg into a round hole. He'll work on anything, just as long as it's got at least 2 cool wheels.
Now, some of you might think I'm a little paranoid about my valves, since, this engine isn't that old. But, see, I've been there and done that before with the Yard Art Cougar. When I first got the Yard Art Cougar running, well, it ran okay for a few minutes, and then it started running real rough, making a clattering sound. When I pulled the valve cover off, I found I had several bent push rods. Now I tried freeing up the valve, with a hammer, tapping on them, and loosening them up and spraying them and stuff. And it ran good for a while, and then bent some more push rods. So then, that ended up me taking the engine apart and out and stuff. There's another YouTuber, a fella by the name of Dalton. You may have heard of him. If you haven't, I suggest you look up his channel, Pole Barn Garage. He's kind of like me. He likes to get cars that are cheap, get them running again, use whatever parts he has available to make them function. And he recently bought a rusted out Lincoln, and the rusted out Lincoln had a nice 460 Ford in it. He was going to use that engine for another project, and he did, did the resurrection thing on it, got it fired up, got it running, ran like crap. Heard a little bit of a rattling sound, and it seized up. And what had happened is a valve stuck. And when the valve stuck, the valve was down. And when the valve was down and the piston came up, well, the two of them met. And it's not a very happy meeting when that happens. So he ended up, pretty much destroying the engine. So I'm not going to take that chance, even though this engine's somewhat newer. And it did sit for a while. I don't know how long. And I don't know if there was bad gas in it, because that's a contributing factor. That becomes like an adhesive to the valve guides and the valve stems. So I'm going to pop these valve covers off. I'm going to rotate the engine. I'm going to make sure my valves open and close just fine. I'm even going to spray a little schmutzy stuff on it, or like a PB Blaster or something that can soak down into those valve stems past the seals, and hopefully I will avoid the tragedy that befell my friend Dalton. Alright, all the valves are going down and coming back up just fine. So, I feel a little bit better about it now. I'll go ahead and put the valve covers back on and we'll move forward. Alright, valves all checked good, they moved. Threw a little lubricant on it, a little bit of STP, because, well, this engine needs the zinc anyway. It still has a flat tappet cam. And put another fresh coat of primer on those valve covers. So, anyway, that much is done. Now we're going to move on to this unit and get it ready to go. So not only am I going to clean this up, I already cleaned it up some. I'm going to scuff it up, get a little bit of paint on it just to protect it. But one of the things here is that the lower ball joint boots are they're gone. They don't have a Zerk fitting on them, so there's no way to put fresh grease in them. So I'm going to go ahead and pull these off. I ordered a couple online. There's no application specifically for these. So these should fit. As long as they keep the dirt out and the grease in. We'll put as much grease on it as we can. This has been out in the elements. I'm going to want to clean this metal off here, get the rust off it with a wire brush. So we'll get this cleaned up as best we can. Get a little paint on it. And then we'll go about the next step, taking the engine out of the rusty grenade.
perfect? No. Is it better than new? No. Is it as good as new? No. But it's certainly better than it was the way that I got it. So, yeah, the ball joints, they don't have any play in them, but the boots are gone. Water got in there. These boots don't really fit all that well, but since there was nothing listed, the way I figure it, it's going to have ball joints replaced eventually anyway. And since there's no play in them now, anything I can do is going to be an improvement, and I'll be able to buy a few more miles out of it before I actually have to go through the trouble of replacing them. Anyway, we've got the rusty areas protected, and it's all, one color now, in an area that will never be seen, just like the chrome pan will never be seen. But that's okay. At least I know they're pretty, and that's what really matters. All right, next, we're going to get the old grenade up in the air, and we're going to start disconnecting stuff, because, that engine's got to come out. Back ain't happy with this procedure at all. But fortunately, it's a fairly light hood. Come on, what? No. God! You! So, I was going to try to get this car ready for the duct tape drags, and it isn't going to happen. There's just too many things. I have less than a week
not only do I have to get the engine in here, I also have to get an exhaust system for it. This single catalytic converter exhaust is not going to work. I've got the headers, but I need the downpipes and I need all the stuff in the back. That's going to cost some money, you know, being a cheapskate. Probably looking at $1,000 for an exhaust system, I'm guessing. Now, I can get those kits online that have the catalytic converter back, where it's got the mufflers and the exit pipes that go over the rear axle and all that, and I can get one of those, but I still got to pay somebody to weld the downpipes to the catback stuff. So I'm still looking at expense, time to get it here, all that. The other problem, happened to be looking on Facebook for another feller who's doing a V8 swap in a Fox body. And you see the 6-cylinder, well, the flex plate bolts to the torque converter, and the torque converter has the ring gear on it for the starter. Whereas on the V8 engine, the ring gear for the starter is on the flex plate, not the torque converter. So I've ordered a couple of flex plates. I got really confused because, well, there's the internally balanced and the externally balanced. There's the heavyweights, there's the lightweights. Some small block Fords use 28 ounces, some small block Fords use 50 ounces. Yeah, I ordered them both. One of them's here already, but that way, when I have the option, I'll be able to use the correct flex plate, but now I need a torque converter without a starter ring gear on it in order to make that flex plate work. And that may take some time again and some more expense. You know, this is one of those projects that starts off with a $400 engine and costs $4,000 in odds and ends, parts and pieces to make the $400 engine fit in the $500 car. I'll spend more on odds and ends than I will on the bulk of it here anyway. So we'll go as far as we can. And then if I can't make it to duct tape drags, that's actually probably better, because next year I'll actually be ready. And that'll give me a chance to upgrade the rear end. That's an open diff. I'm going to hit the gas, it's just going to smoke the right rear tire. Not going to do anything on the left side. So I'm going to want to get a locking rear end of some kind in it. And I'm probably going to want to put some frame reinforcements in, because, you know, with this much more torque, well, torque is twisting. And I don't want to twist my station wagon. All the windows pop out and stuff. It's not a pretty sight. So I need to get a little more reinforcement under here before I let all the onions flow from the engine to the rear end. Anyway, but we're going to get this 6-banger out and we'll go from there. Anyway, torque converter bolts. I think I can get to the bell housing bolts from under here, and then we'll pluck this baby out of here. Ah, sweet! So it turns out that the flywheel, or the flex plate, has the starter ring gear on it, on this engine. So the vehicle in the article I was reading was a little bit older model year. I want to say it was a 78 or an 80. This is an 82. And evidently they changed the configuration by 1982. So even though this is a 6-cylinder, it does have a torque converter without the ring gear, which means that it'll be easy for me to use my V8 flex plate. Now, a lot of folks will tell you, and a lot of YouTubers I've noticed, when they do an engine job, they pull the engine with the transmission, because, well, it's a lot easier to get to the bell housing bolts for one, and a lot of times they're changing the transmission or whatever, and I could do it that way. And really, if you look at the way these cars are built, typically what they do is the engine and the transmission are mounted in the K-member or subframe, and that entire subframe is coming down the assembly line, and then just lower the body onto it. I can do that too. I got to take the subframe out anyway, or the K-member out anyway, right? But I've decided to do just the engine first for a couple of reasons. First of all, I don't have a platform big enough to support the K-member and the engine and the transmission to drop it out the bottom. Secondly, since I'm reusing this transmission, I don't want to have to disconnect the lines and the shift linkage and the drive shaft and all that other stuff if I don't have to. I mean, I got to take the bell housing bolts apart anyway. So we're going to leave the transmission in it. We're going to pull the engine out first, and then I get the weight of the engine off that K-member, and then we'll disconnect the suspension and take the K-member out in a separate operation. I think that'll work out the easiest for me in my particular situation. Why don't you guys, chat in the comment section and tell me how stupid I am, and it would have been easier to do it another different way. Okay. Anyway, I got my torque converter nuts loose. Now I just got to get those bell housing bolts in there. They're not going to be too easy. I can get to a couple of them from the top almost, but I think if I come in with a long extension and a wobbly, I can get all of them from underneath. So we're going to do that next. Well, I'm going to go ahead and just drop the cross member, lower the transmission down so I can get to those top bolts, because they're pretty close to the firewall, and I tried to get in there with an extension and a wobbly, and it's not going to do it. But if I lower it down just a couple of inches, I should be able to gain access to it. All right, now I have access to the top bolts. Can't see too good, but anyway, should be able to get them out pretty easily. Goodness, look at the schmutz accumulation on that bell housing. So, this car's got 100, 200, 300,000 million miles on it. It's really old. It's been leaking oil all over the place, and, that's what I come to expect. So I'm going to clean that off and polish it so it looks like new. No, it's going to stay schmutzy. Because what's probably going to happen is with the torque from this V8, it will likely grenade this transmission within the first, 30 or 40,000 miles, and then I'll be doing an upgrade on the transmission, probably an AOD or something like that. Well, that's going to do it for this episode, guys. I try to keep my episodes down to around half an hour-ish or so, and I know you were hoping to see the whole thing done. It'll get done. In the next episode, we're going to take the subframe, or what they call a K-member, out. We're going to put the fancy spray-painted one in, and that should give us the mount locations we need for our engine. And then, we're going to put that engine in this car. Oh boy. Anyway, thanks for watching. Hit the old subscribe button. Doesn't cost you nothing. And it helps me get to that point where YouTube will monetize me, and then I'll have enough money to afford to do stuff like this. Because right now it's killing me. Anyway, thanks for watching. Devil am I doing here? God, the things I do for YouTube. Ow! Goodness gracious. Let's see if I can break some stuff with my feet while I'm at it. Here we go.